You don't notice the shift when it happens. At first, it feels like curiosity. You hear about crypto the same way everyone does, through someone else's win. A number mentioned casually, a chart shown quickly, a story that sounds almost accidental. Someone bought early, someone held long enough. Someone turned a small amount into something that suddenly feels significant. And the important part isn't the number. It's how easy the story sounds. No complexity, no friction, just timing. So you look into it, not seriously, just enough to understand what everyone is talking about. And what you find is a system that looks open, fast, and strangely simple. Buy, hold, watch. That's it. No barriers, no long processes, no permission required. And that simplicity is what pulls people in. Because compared to traditional finance, where everything feels slow, regulated, and distant, crypto feels immediate, accessible, alive. But that feeling is not an accident. It's part of the design. Because crypto doesn't just function as a financial system, it functions as an attention system. Prices move constantly. Narratives change daily. New opportunities appear overnight. There is always something happening. And where there is constant movement, there is constant engagement. You start checking prices more often. At first, once a day, then a few times, then without thinking. Not because you need to, but because you want to see if something changed. And eventually, it's no longer about information. It's about stimulation. Because every time you open the app, there's a possibility. Up or down, gain or loss, movement. And your brain starts to associate that movement with opportunity. But here's where the system quietly shifts. Because in traditional investing, value is anchored to something. Revenue, assets, cash flow. In crypto, most of the time, value is anchored to perception. What people believe something is worth. What they think someone else will pay for it. And that creates a very different dynamic. Because perception is unstable. It changes quickly. And when value is based on perception, price becomes the only signal people trust. So price starts driving decisions. Not fundamentals, not long-term strategy, just movement. And movement is unpredictable, which means most decisions are made under uncertainty. You see something rising, you feel late, you enter anyway, not because you plan to, but because you don't want to miss what might happen next. And that feeling, fear of missing out, is one of the strongest forces in financial behavior. Stronger than logic, stronger than patience, because it's tied to regret. The idea that you might watch something happen without you, so you act. And sometimes it works, which is where the real problem begins. Because when a risky decision leads to a positive outcome, your brain doesn't question it, it reinforces it. It tells you, this makes sense, do it again. But what actually happened wasn't skill, it was timing. And timing in a volatile system is often indistinguishable from luck. But the system doesn't correct that misunderstanding, it amplifies it. Because as more people enter, prices move faster. As prices move faster, stories spread quicker. As stories spread, more people join. It becomes a feedback loop, not driven by value, but by participation. And participation needs new entrants, always. Because in a system where gains come primarily from price appreciation, those gains depend on someone else buying in at a higher price, which means the system relies on continuous inflow, new attention, new money, new belief. And when that flow slows down, everything changes. Prices stop rising, momentum fades, and suddenly the same system that felt full of opportunity feels unstable. Because without upward movement, there is nothing to hold the narrative together. No excitement, no urgency, no reason to stay. So people start leaving. Not all at once, gradually. And that's what makes it difficult to see. There's no clear moment where everything breaks, just a slow shift in behavior. Fewer buyers, more hesitation, less confidence. And in a system driven by perception, confidence is everything. Once it weakens, price follows. And when price drops, psychology takes over again. But this time, it's not driven by excitement. It's driven by fear. People don't want to lose what they gained, so they sell, which pushes price lower, which triggers more selling, and the cycle reverses. This is not unique to crypto. It has happened in every speculative market in history, but crypto accelerates it because everything moves faster. Information spreads instantly, trades execute immediately, and decisions happen in seconds, which means mistakes compound quickly, not over years, but over days, sometimes hours. And most people are not prepared for that environment because they enter thinking it's about opportunity, not realizing it's also about structure. A structure that rewards early participation, constant attention, and emotional tolerance, but punishes hesitation, overconfidence, and misunderstanding. And misunderstanding is the most common entry point because crypto is often presented as a revolution, a new financial system, a replacement for the old one. And while parts of that may be true, it doesn't change how people behave inside it. They still chase, they still panic, they still follow narratives, which means the outcomes don't change as much as people expect, just the speed. So is crypto a scam? Not exactly, but it doesn't need to be, because a system doesn't have to be fraudulent to produce losses. It just has to be misunderstood. And crypto is one of the most misunderstood financial environments that exists today. Not because it's hidden, but because it looks simple. And simplicity can be deceptive, because what appears easy to enter is often difficult to navigate, especially when the rules are not written, only experienced through wins, through losses, through time. And by the time most people understand the system, they've already paid for the lesson, not in theory, but in capital. And that's the part no one includes in the story. The part between the entry and the outcome, where decisions are made, where psychology takes over, where the system reveals what it actually is. Not just technology, not just finance, but a mirror, reflecting how people behave when money, uncertainty, and opportunity collide. And whether you gain or lose in that environment depends less on what you buy and more on how you think while you're in it.